Welcome back to another Professional Picks college basketball video. We lost last time out on Butler. Honestly, just a really bad read. Started off the game pretty well, up 10 early, just completely fell apart. Couldn't hit a shot in the second half. But let's not dwell on our loss. We're still 3-2 on the season. We're up money. But let's kind of take that as a reset and let's get right back to it this week. And for today's video, we're going to be previewing the ACC versus the Big Ten Challenge. And so these games will be taking place on Wednesday, November 30th. And I got two games for you guys today. Let's jump right into it. Also, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment if you're enjoying the content. Hoping to get a lot more out for you guys. I want to start being a little bit more consistent here, but do expect a lot more videos, especially over winter break. Should be getting a lot more content out there. But our first matchup, really great game tomorrow. We have Ohio State heading to Durham to play the Duke Blue Devils. And KenPom actually has these two teams really even. They have Ohio State actually at 19, Duke at number 20. Duke coming off the bad loss to Purdue. But I do love that Duke's coming off that loss, actually. Needed a learning lesson, especially with all those freshmen on the roster. And quite honestly, it just was not a good matchup for them playing against Zach Edey, the 7'4" junior now, who is a really, really good player, too. Developed a ton while at Purdue. Could have easily been a starter last year if they didn't have Trevion Williams on the roster. I think that was definitely a trap for Duke with all those younger freshmen. Just they're definitely slowed down, mitigated, just their paint presence that they had. So that Purdue matchup was tough for them. I'm not going to put too much into that. I think the bigger storyline here is just how much size Duke's going to have in this one. That's the one strength I have for Duke. And really the last 3-4 years now, Ohio State's just consistently been an undersized, scrappy team. I love Ohio State basketball, but they do not match up well against bigger teams. I've seen it time and time again in the Big Ten, whether it's Kofi, who was on Illinois, Hunter Dickinson, even when they had Luka Garza at Iowa, even say Trace Jackson Davis with Indiana. These Ohio State can't match up with bigger teams. They get abused in the paint, on the glass, just rebounding. And all that stuff adds up a ton. Obviously, we have Duke here -5.5 at home. So they are still the favorites. The odds makers aren't going to put too much, or they haven't put too much into that last loss. And they do think Duke is the better team still here. And I think Duke is the much better team. Came into the season top 10. Just had one bad game, like we mentioned. Ohio State, very good basketball team, but also a lot of new pieces. I don't think either team is really bringing back much of their rotation. Ohio State, a lot of freshmen, a lot of transfers, and then same deal with Duke. So not leaning either side on experience here. Ohio State does have some more experience, but like I said, Zed Key starting at 6'8", he's gonna have to match up with multiple 7-footers across the board. Zed Key's a really good player, but he's not at 6'8". It's a tough matchup against these guys. Here, let's look at the X factors though. We got two freshmen, Bryce Sensabaugh averaging almost 16 for the Buckeyes. Been a great surprise for them. Wasn't even one of their top ranked freshmen coming into the season. I believe they still have him coming off the bench. They at least did the first couple matchups, but I could easily see him cracking the starting lineup soon. But he's been real solid, 6'6", just real classic small forward. Really good player. But like we mentioned here, Duke heading into that Champions Classic, I know people overreacted, but Duke did have a historically great defense heading into those games. This size definitely does matter. Bryce Sensabaugh, great player, but he's still going to have to go up against the great freshman Mark Mitchell, who has a size and athletic advantage over him. I think Sensabaugh is going to have a tough time scoring. Then on the other hand, Duke, I put Derek Lively here as the X factor because number one recruit in the whole country, averaging 2.7 points per game. I don't see how he could play any worse. He put up a goose egg against Purdue. I just think he has to play better. There's nowhere really way he could play any worse. And then on the other hand, they did get Derek Whitehead back too. Didn't play great in some of his early action, but they're going to ease him into the lineup, the top ranked shooting guard in the country. I think Duke has too much talent as well as size in this one. The play for me here is Duke minus 5.5. I do think they win this one pretty comfortably, and I looked into it because Ohio State's going to have to play on the perimeter quite a bit. I don't see them getting too much in the paint unless Duke plays unsound basketball. But at home, uh, just with how this team has historically played, Duke's not going to just rack up the fouls. They're going to play solid in the paint. So Ohio State, on the other hand, here, a big X factor for them for me would have been if they were hitting a lot of threes. But in all of Division One basketball, they're 170 out of 153 teams, so right above average technically, but obviously that includes every team in the whole country. So when you're looking at Power Five, Ohio State doesn't necessarily have um, a lean or a real advantage with their 3-point shooting. I think Ohio State, yes, their offense is their strength, but they're gonna have a hard time getting it going. I think they're gonna lose the rebounding matchup and just get destroyed in points in the paint. I think Duke covers the minus 5.5 fairly easy in this one. Next matchup, I do think this is gonna be a closer game, but another great game just on paper. We got North Carolina heading to Indiana. No crazy injuries. Same with the last matchup, but Armando Bacot is a game time decision with his ankle injury. But I was just reading into it. It looks like he's going to play. Doesn't seem like anything too serious. I feel like he's always getting ankle injuries and he continues to play through them. He's not an overly athletic player, very strong, solid base. So that ankle injury isn't going to play too big of a factor, honestly. I remember he was hurt last year in the Final Four, and he was just putting up huge numbers regardless. So I'm not too worried about the Armando Bacot injury. I think that has to be playing into the spread somewhat. I know North Carolina has lost their last two, but they came into the season the number one team in the country, and obviously two losses in a row, you're going to plummet no matter what. But giving them 7 points on the road here does seem like quite a bit to me. Um, Indiana, on the other hand, undefeated on the year, but hasn't played any real great competition. Their best team they played against so far was Xavier. They pulled out a close one by 2 points, and honestly, the game they should have lost. They were down at the half, and they pulled it out at the end, and Xavier still had a chance to send it to overtime. So Indiana just hasn't sold me yet fully. Yes, there's a lot of guys returning, so that experience that they have and that depth also is really intriguing on paper. But this team still was a first round exit in March Madness, barely made it in. They had to play the play in game. And yes, there's a lot of talent there, but I haven't seen it come fully together. I do think Indiana is a subpar defensive team. And the X factor here, Trace Jackson Davis, obviously All American candidate. He's going to have to play a great game for them pretty much in every big matchup they have this season. But he's good for about almost 20 points, 10 boards. I think he's really going to have to show up for them to cover this spread. I do have a hard time seeing Indiana win this one by 8, 9, or 10 points, though. North Carolina did just lose, but they lost in a quadruple overtime game to a good Alabama team. Caleb Love, X factor here for North Carolina. That's just because you really never know what you're going to get with him. His first two seasons pretty much shot 30% from the field. And then he just had a revelation during March Madness, got really hot, and really honestly carried them to all the way through the tournament. Shot horribly against Alabama. I think he took like 36 shots. Um, really inefficient, but I do think he's going to bounce back. I think he's a really solid player. He just needs to still improve on his decision making. But if you get a big game from Caleb Love, they can beat anybody in the country. Yes, it's a dice roll, but you're going to give me North Carolina, the preseason #1 team in the country, plus 7 points. I know they're on the road. I know they're playing a good team. They have a lot of experience. I don't see them getting blown out. And yes, I think 8 points is technically a blowout. I don't see them getting blown out on the road. Um, just not this early in the season with all the experience in that rotation. And then Indiana does have a lot of depth. So I looked a little bit into the tempo here. Both of these teams, neither of them are even in the top 120 in tempo in the country. So I would have, if Indiana played a faster pace, I think this one would kind of change things, especially maybe get North Carolina into foul trouble. Their only real good player off the bench is Puff Johnson, the junior, but I don't think Indiana is going to be able to take great advantage of North Carolina's just lack the depth. And yeah, I think it's gonna be a really close game. I could preseason. I feel like this one's more closer to even than anything. So love the value here, +7. Give me North Carolina, 2 losses on the road, or yeah, just back-to-back losses. I think they're due for a bounce back. So take North Carolina, +7 in this one. Been rambling a little bit, so not gonna reiterate too much here, but we got 1 unit apiece, one on Duke -5.5 at home, one on North Carolina +7 on the road. We are taking both ACC teams here. A little surprised because everybody knows who watches the videos. I love Big Ten basketball. There's the majority of the bets here, but you're playing against the cream of the crop, 2 best teams in the ACC, both coming off losses. I like the ACC teams here against the spread a lot. And then we'll just wrap it up with our promo. As always, we have our partnership with Prize Picks. You can see there on the left, they'll match your first deposit up to $100 using the promo code ProPicks. Daily fantasy app. You could use it in betting legal states. So give it a look if you're just looking for more ways to just get some gambling and wagers in on these games. But I wish everybody good luck this week. Do expect another video coming out soon here, but got 2 plays for tomorrow. Feeling really good about them. If you're only going to take one, I think you should side with that North Carolina pick. I do think that game's going to end up being very close, and I think they could even pull out the win at +7. Good luck, everybody. Let me know what you're taking in the comments. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks.